How many of you, when you went through the meditation stage here just now, you're sitting in stillness, okay? You're sitting in stillness and things are going down to a state where you're just on the cusp. You know what I mean by cusp? You're just on the cusp of rolling or deep diving, but there is still some resistance. Don't be shy. How many hold back at that point of resistance? If you've not experienced it, that's okay, I understand. But those that are in that state, it will only come through practice to let go. That's what I mean by surrender. You need to let, questions later, please, Navas. You need to surrender, at that point. When you surrender at that point, you will then understand. First time is not possible. Second time is not possible. Sometimes 100 times is not possible. But that's the point when you do that, it's like you winning a gold medal. That's the power. Once you have that, you already know you can conquer. And individuals are finding it extremely hard because they have not gone what I call over that hurdle. Let go. Go over that hurdle. Now, I don't know if many of you understand and know that the whole process that we're covering through currently in very few countries actually implant this as a modus operandi in their work life, in their living life. It becomes a way of life. And there's one organization or one country that's extremely high on this, a very process-driven organization or country, Japan. And they have the equivalent of what we talk about, and they actually discipline not just the kids, but even the adults. To that extent, sometimes they need to publicly humiliate them by standing in front of a railway station and calling out this term called surrender. Companies do that. Why? To bring humility into you, to bring that humbleness into you. And when you get into that state, you then know there is nothing else but surrender. And the term that the Japs use is called hensai. And hensai is an introspective for improvement of self, a reflection of self-improvement. It's part and practice of every company. It's like a creed. And why is it? Because they want perfection. They don't go for excellence, they go for perfection, because they were a copycat nation after World War II. And the whole intent there is to scale up Kaizen, scale up Lean, scale up TQM, scale up TPM, all of these processes that are in place. So they're process-driven country. Therefore, they need the employees to gear mentally that way. What they're doing unknowingly, intrinsically, is creating what Alka and I are talking about, the neuroplasticity. See, companies go to that extent. Now, why? Because they want magnitude. Where Honda is today is not where Honda was when they first gave birth to Honda after World War II. Primarily because that state was not there. Hero Honda was actually in a state to find something. Now, this is what creates creativity. This is what manifests ideas. When you can get into that state holistically, not half-half, not half-half. So learn from that. Why I brought the culture of Japan in here, I've been not been now, but I have worked quite a lot, close to about 18 years, with some of the leading Japanese companies, JSM, for example, who's Japanese steel mills for all of Japan. And those guys are amazing when you do certain things. And they come there very cold-hearted, but actually they have inside of them this soft nature. And it is a practice. I'm leading up to army time. It is a practice, not just having morning and night sessions, but at lunchtime, they turn off everything for 10 minutes, and they sit in a corner, not even facing the desk. They sit in a corner so they can focus, and they wind down. Because yesterday where I left you was on the situation of what are you doing with your time and how are you going through that process, if you recall that. So if the Japanese are doing a third wind down setup, okay.
Nawaz, mute.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, when I'm in the zone, I don't see
Yeah.
those feel those type
Yeah.
of things. Thank you, appreciate that. Very much. Yeah. So what you now need to understand is you now need to do these practices on blind faith because it's already been tested. Like Alka was talking, science has tested it. Don't go and question this. It's like some of the people who were questioning and trying to figure out. And as an example, I remember, laundry liquid and all of that. The companies have spent thousands and millions of dollars researching it. They got to bring it in and do the laundry test in their laundry. Then only they will buy the product, or something else. And the point I make is you don't need to worry about the testing of this. This is a fait accompli process called me time. Accept it. Practice it without question. 3 times a day. 3 times a day. Once when you wind down. The process of wind down that we have within MRM is very simple. Last thing you do after you've done everything for everybody else, you finish theirs, you need to look at you now. What do you do for you? If you have the luxury, time-wise, have a shower. Have a bath. If you have a bath. Now, I also encourage people to have showers during the day. It is not to cleanse yourself physically, it's to cleanse yourself mentally. Especially, I do this especially a lot during coaching sessions because I just want to get rid, psychologically, I need to get rid of the negativity. So you wash yourself, you cleanse yourself, and you'll be surprised how refreshed you feel. That's the first thing, okay? So at night, you wind down, freshen up. As you go to bed, there are some things that you start looking at. Your journaling, reflection of the day. Process is important here. Be a process-driven person. Number 2, wind down exercise. You need to work from the highest level to the lowest level of cycles per second, meaning you're still on a high performance state. Don't ever, 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 ever do any exercises, in my opinion, just before you go to sleep. You want to wind down. You don't want to be heartbeat up. You can do it 2 hours prior. So when you go through this process of wind down, you start off with high activity zone. What is that? Journaling. Go through your vision board. If you have got it on the wall, walk through it like you're walking through an art gallery. Look at your masterpiece on that wall, and then you go down, you get into your bed. You have 10 to 15 minutes reading if you can. That'll be really good. Then get into a visualization state of what you just walked through. And then you get into your affirmation state and surrender. At that cusp, learn to let go. And as you let go, you turn around, and before that, just mention, I have these 6 things to do, which you have already done in this process of this 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You will then turn around and say, I surrender to you to find me the solution. Talk to the subconscious mind as your best friend, not as a servant. Be assertive. Some of you would have observed how, and I hope Suresh don't mind, how I handled Suresh last night. Out of the victim mode, straight into being assertive. Now, that's your knack. So now you've given instructions to subconscious mind, forget worry. let go, surrender, and go into your sleep. Even if it's 3 hours, it's okay. If it's 5 hours, it's good. Thank God for that. If it's 2 hours, it's okay. Accept it. Now, once you go into that state, you will be surprised. Initially, you will find it very hard to go into deep sleep. You need to practice. That's also a practice. You need to practice to go into deep sleep. Within seconds of my hitting the pillow, I'm off. That only comes with practice. You then stay in that state of total bliss, the lowest frequency bliss, and work yourself up. When you get up, you're groggy, still lie in bed. Those who got high blood pressure situations, lie in bed and slowly get up. Put your feet on the ground, give thanks, gratitude, go through those, go to the toilet, come back. No TV, no coffee, no mobile phone, no husband, no wife, no eavesdropping, nothing. Sit in silence. Rewind the cycle back. This is your step-up process now. Rewind the cycle to reverse of what you had. The reverse of what you had at night was last thing you did is first thing you do now, because you're coming out of deep sleep, alpha, beta, theta, delta state. Work your way up. So from the deep sleep, you go to the next sleep, which is from affirmations. You slowly work your way through visualization. You slowly review your 6 points, and you have a notepad by the side of you. That notepad, then you write the things that you got to act upon, because your unconscious will be talking to you. Now, I'm kicking myself. I'm telling you, you need to have a notepad. This morning when I came out, a thought came to me, and David, you need to put a series of that together. And I said, yes. But to me at that stage, more important was to go outside and just feel the garden. I came back inside, I lost that. I can't even think what that idea is now. And straight away, my coach comes to my head. Glenda Leonard said, always when an idea comes, catch the idea. And I've lost it. It'll come back sometime. But the key element is whenever thoughts come in, write it down. So that's your wind down process and wind up process. Now, we do that night and morning. We're going and doing all these activities. Somewhere midpoint, halfway through, is why I talked about Hensai. Follow the Japanese. You can go through the same process of night ritual in lunchtime, which means you wind down. If you can afford 15 minutes, wind down, go through the process, and do the same thing. Now, if you self-care yourself to that extent, you're actually doing a grease and oil change to your whole body every 5,000 kilometers. Your car does it. Here, you're doing it every day. That's what you're doing. You're doing a grease and oil change to your system. Any questions? Does it make sense? Now, whilst that is happening, I would sincerely suggest to each of you, what were the 4 areas in which I suggested for you to do practices yesterday? We went through different categories. The wind down and wind up is a section of its own. But I suggested, how do you get into these practices is what I was talking about. Can someone just give me some feedback? What were some of those areas? I put them into 4 categories. I'm going to give you the 5th one today.
David, we had to rework on our 5 senses. We had to be
Yes.
mindful of our exercise.
Yes.
We had to reflect on our thoughts and our emotions.
Fabulous.
and we had what we are feeling about what we are thinking about. We have to think
Yes.
about that.
And go to the senses, basically down to the grassroots. Only when you can do that are you in the state of the zone. And that's why, if you notice, sometimes I deflect questions because my mind is at a zone. I don't want to break it. And you do that. Okay. Go back to the questioning later. Now, we also covered the concept of hobbies, remember? So hobbies is a second form of me time, which you can practice daily: painting, music, all of those type of things, dancing, going for a drive. I used to, that's basically how I got into this whole concept. I used to love, I used to be a rally driver. So I used to love driving racing cars, not Formula One. I'm talking about cross-country racing. So with my Fiat 124 Coupe, I used to go up to the mountains every weekend. One weekend up the mountain, next weekend to Sydney from Brisbane. 12 hours non-stop driving because I got joy from driving. So get into a hobby that you can float in with it. Allow yourself to fully immerse into it. So that's the second one, hobbies. The third one we spoke of was exercise. You remember, I'm not talking just physical exercise, I'm talking mental exercise. And touch with you, Wendy Suzuki. How many had gone and seen any of Wendy's work since I spoke with you yesterday? Please. You want to build your muscle in the brain, you got to go do that. Wendy Suzuki. She's got a whole laboratory of this work that she's doing. Now, following that, my next question to you is, how many of you actually love nature? What are you doing? What are you doing about nature? Very quickly, we don't want long stories. Very quick. Yeah, sorry, Navas.
I sit out in my backyard in the garden with the plants.
Great.
I talk
Very
to them and
excellent.
communicate.
Fabulous. And when you talk to them, they grow bigger. For some reason, they respond back in their sign of growth. Anybody else?
David, we take the girls camping often, which we love out in nature.
Fabulous. Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I
Walking.
go for a walk in the trailing and adventures every week.
Fabulous. Anybody else? Yeah.
I see the
I
colorful colors of the nature. There are different colors.
Huh. Very good. Anybody else?
I
Fatima?
ensure that I do contribute by not spoiling uh, nature in my own way, little way, and also brought some elements at home to add up.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Fatima?
I go hiking
Right.
weekend, and like sometimes I'll just go and walk in the garden or just sit in the garden and just be there and
Right.
experience that. Yeah.
Excellent. That's the whole idea. And under that umbrella, we actually now understand the concept of what I call forest bathing. If you go into nature and you go outdoors a lot, walk in the park, simple setting, backyard, like what Navas mentioned, that's where I work with my garden constantly. It's a power to connect and recharge yourself. It's amazing how energy used to be drawn from it. You can replenish your drawn energy from nature. Nature is a calming effect for your mind. And when you understand that, and how many have created sort of a little sanctuary of their own? If you've got a patio or a veranda with some wind chimes and plants around, it gives you bliss, That's one form, one true form of winding and surrendering yourself to me time. So these are some of the practices that you need to now understand. And when you do this, you will then understand which planet are you in. How are you really going to work with yourself? We're not asking anybody else, just you. This is for you. And very quickly, as I said, morning, lunch, and evening are the three main times that you need to focus on a daily basis. 3 times you need to have to refuel you. Weekend, minimum is Sunday with your family. Minimum. So that totally brings together me time intact for you. I didn't go through the details of the process, affirmation and all. We've already done that before. So I'm expecting, you to know that.